And we go directly to Douglas Russell.
Make sure I start my timer this time. Good evening, at least by Australian time. In fact, it would be good morning. Luckily, I got here a few days in advance, so I'm not tired. So, hands up if you were here last year. Excellent. Well, many of you may remember me presenting a proposed project that we were going to be doing, the Women's Insights into Safeguarding Efforts in the Catholic Church. This year I'm here to present some of the results. I think it's very fitting that Tina earlier mentioned that over 200, was it, of the 280 or so people that took part in the preparatory working online groups were women. And so that's why, as part of the Global Safeguarding Alliance, I've got colleagues here in the audience, and Father Zollner was very much the person who suggested and built the Global Safeguarding Alliance, are here to present the WISE project. And I believe thank you. I believe, at least in English-speaking countries, we speak about the owl as being a very wise creature. So you will see our little owls throughout the presentation. So women in the life of the church, there's lots of statistics, and of course, when I went looking for them, most of them came from Australia and the US. So my apologies to people from all of the many other countries that are here and where we know women play an integral role in the church. But I'll give some statistics from here. 61% of church attendees in Australia were women, and that's just regular, sorry, not regular, that's the wrong word. That's non-denominational, so not specifically Catholic. Women were less likely than men to hold governance roles, such as council, board, elders, or deacons, again, across the Christian faith in Australia, 5.9% for women and 9.4% for men. In the Catholic Church, women make up 77% of the workforce in Australia. So quite a large proportion there compared to men. Majority of Catholic Church attendees. Now, this is not US-wide. This isn't even statewide. This is very specifically in San Diego. Do we have anyone from San Diego here? Don't need to out yourself if you don't want to. There's nothing bad here. So majority of Catholic Church attendees in San Diego were women. 25 out of 30 principals in Catholic schools were women, and 21 of the vice principals were women. So again, a large proportion of the workforce. And in parish staffing, responding parishes within the survey, where this data comes from, averaged about 8 women and 5 men on staff. So we can see that women make up the majority of all of those statistics compared to men. So whose voice have we been hearing in research? So we can see the wonderful Father Zollner's name up there with one of my colleagues from ACU, Dr. Riondino. What's happened is that research has often focused on systems, leadership, and clergy. So women's perspectives have been less visible. So you can see policies in the Roman Catholic Church that's systems-based. We've got an article here by myself and some colleagues looking at children's perceptions. So again, not specific to women, despite the fact that make up the majority of church attendees and the workforce. We've got safeguarding culture in the Catholic Church of England and Wales. So again, looking at systems. A ministry-based study here in England and Wales, systems. The safeguarding capabilities of adults. So the last project that the Global Safeguarding Alliance did, where we again looked at leadership and clergy. Building better safeguarding, the Catholic Church and its institutions in Kenya, the wonderful Sister Jacinta Onding's work. Again, institutions, systems. And then finally, I would be remiss to not mention the International Survey of Catholic Women by Drs. McEwen, McPhillips and Pepper, which did some wonderful work looking at specifically women, specifically in the Catholic Church. They're probably here, and I should probably not give any hard numbers, but there were 2 or 3 questions about safeguarding. This was not a safeguarding specific project. And that's not to say that that's a bad thing, it just wasn't the focus. So we decided that there should be a research project with a focus specifically on women's insights, and we ended up asking many more women than this, but 451 women have been included in the final sample of our study. They come from over 40 countries around the world. They varied in age between 20 and 91, with a very rounded mean of 50 years old, and that's also actually the same median as well. So it was what we would call a mixed design. So we asked some quantitative questions on a scale of 1 to 4. How much do you feel this, that, yes or no to this question? That's the data that I'll be presenting today. There's also some open-ended qualitative questions that my colleagues, who are much better at qualitative research than myself, will sort of lead the analysis on, and I'll definitely be involved in that. So maybe next year, one of my wonderful colleagues will be presenting on the qualitative research. So who did we hear from? So we had a really even split of Catholic lay people who were church attendees, workers in a Catholic setting, they did not specifically have to be Catholic, and also women religious, so very much split across those 3 groups. So when it comes to those that worked in the Catholic Church, that sort of around about a third of them, these were the different areas that they worked within. It was a huge range. So you could see down the bottom, just under a third of them were in education and teaching. 1 in 5 sort of had to answer other in relation to not fitting into any of these sorts of roles. And then you can see there's a couple close to sort of 1 in 10 for religious or spiritual leadership, office or organisational leadership, and fewer in things like media communications, specialised services like hospitals, prisons and aged care and so forth. So, what do these women tell us? We asked women whether they were heard, whether they felt they were heard locally, and whether they felt they were heard globally. My apologies. I need to learn how to stop going to green and red. I have at least 2 bosses who are both colourblind, but I find it's useful for yes and no's, but my apologies to anyone who's colourblind. The bottom bar is green, represents yes, we feel heard. The red is no, and the black is unsure. So you can see locally, almost half of women feel that they're heard in relation to safeguarding. But globally, that goes down to 15%. So we need to think about what is it about listening to women's views and considering what they add as the majority of the workforce and indeed church attendees to make sure that what they're saying is heard globally. Having knowledge did not equal having confidence in these women. 3 out of 4 women felt that they knew their community's safeguarding rules and policies. So again, keep in mind that this is women religious, women working in Catholic settings, a broad range of them that we saw, and also Catholic church attendees. But only 1 in 5 felt confident that safeguarding concerns are handled openly and fairly. So whilst they feel they know what safeguarding should look like, they don't believe that that's necessarily what's happening. This is probably one of the 2 statistics that I was surprised at. 50% of our, or maybe I shouldn't have been because they were happy to respond to a survey about safeguarding. 50% of the women had reported a concern about safeguarding. This is out of 450 women, so that's 225 have reported a safeguarding concern. But only 2/3 of them felt that that was handled well. 1/3 of those people did not feel that their safeguarding report had been handled well. We really also wanted to ask questions about women causing harm. So we asked this question here: have you ever seen or heard of a situation where a woman caused harm or made others feel unsafe in your community? It was close to 50%. Half of the respondents to our survey said that they had seen or heard about another woman causing harm. It wasn't always necessarily sexual harm, but as we heard earlier this afternoon, safeguarding can mean not just protection from sexual harm, which in Australia has been very much the impetus for where a lot of our safeguarding laws and policies and changes, both within the country but also within the church, have stemmed from. So just to be clear, I thought I'd put these in so that it would be biggest first, but it ended up going backwards on me. So the biggest one is emotional harm, around 50%. And then working backwards through the circle, you can see 16% was physical, 12% was sexual, 11% was failure to follow a safeguarding policy, grooming was only 5%, and something else was 8%. So many of these questions that I'm already going through, we have qualitative questions that followed them. So when we ask them, for example, do you feel women are heard locally? They would say yes, no, or unsure. We would follow up that question and say, what is it you think that helps support women be heard locally? Or why is it that you think women are not heard locally? So for many of these questions, we will also be reporting, not tonight, but in a report and many peer-reviewed journals, articles, hopefully, those qualitative findings as well. So accountability when women cause harm is unclear. So again, only 1 in 5 of our respondents saying that that accountability was clear when it came to women causing harm in particular. So 9 out of 10 women said that they want to be part of the solution. They want to be in safeguarding roles. And I know in Australia we definitely have that happening already, and these women feel that they really add value to being in those roles within the church. Almost all of our respondents said support and regular training and potentially ongoing formation are all really important and should be expected. I think the thing that I'm also really keen to explore in the coming years will be how often that training needs to happen. It's very clear when you look at almost any training-based research, the maximum the training really lasts before you need a refresher is 12 months. Yeah, there needs to be a refresher on training on almost any topic for a professional or someone in a role such as a priest or a superior or even a nun in relation to safeguarding. So what are women telling us? So women are involved but not always heard, and that's very relevant to the global voice as well. Although they are participating, they don't necessarily see that they have the influence that they would like to have. Systems are not consistently trusted. So we are ticking some boxes, which is not necessarily, it's definitely not the end game, but we can see that we are starting to develop that high knowledge within our communities about safeguarding, but it's not necessarily translating when reports are being made. So reporting doesn't always lead to good outcomes. Safeguarding systems are inconsistent, so there's mixed outcomes when it comes to reporting. Accountability isn't always clear, and variation in how systems operate may be causing problems. So we saw all those different systems that are trying to navigate within a system, and across different countries as well. And women want a stronger role in safeguarding. I don't know if it's stronger or just, women are celebrating the role that they have in safeguarding. They support women in safeguarding roles. They think that regular training is required, and they've got that clear desire to contribute. So, this work is part of the Global Safeguarding Alliance, and I won't get a show of hands, but if you, and I've been harping on about this for a couple of years now, if you haven't joined the Safeguarding Alliance, please do scan the QR code and sign up. We also have a community of practice on LinkedIn. So if you have a LinkedIn account, you can search for Global Safeguarding Alliance, and it should come up with a group, which is our community of practice, where we're looking for everybody to share what they know about safeguarding, share the resources that you're using, share the things that you think work, introduce yourself, put questions there. There's rules that you'll see when you sign up. As I said, hopefully next year someone will be here to present some of that qualitative research, looking at the more in-depth answers about why we got some of these responses we got. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Douglas, for this very interesting study. And also it opens another dimension of our safeguarding topic, the roles, our understanding of male, female, woman, man, and so on. Okay, now the two are here present, and take some moments to think about it, what you have heard so far, and then the floor is open for some questions or comments. Let's wait a bit. Let's take a little moment, and then we come to the questions. Please again say your name, say where you come from, and also your role, and the mics will go around. Okay, I see the first hands coming up. Okay, we go there, and then...
Father Sylvester from Sierra Leone. My concern is addressed to Angela. I subscribe to all you presented. I have been asking myself a question when you were presenting. Since safeguarding is about protection and prevention, what can we do to prevent migrations? That's all. What can we do? So that to prevent people to migrate, what can we do? What can we do? Yeah. Thank you.
Maybe we take a second question. Okay, we answer them right away. Okay. So sorry, we answer the question right away, and then we come to you, and then here.
Thank you, Sylvester, for your question. I wouldn't say that we can prevent migration. So people move by nature. What we can prevent is a risky migration somehow. Of course, again, there is a systemic view to address it, because both in the country of origin, it's necessary that on the political level, on the social level, on the communitarian level, it's necessary to take measures so that people, minors, can live in safe places, so that perhaps they are not forced to migrate. And we can say the same in the country of transit and destination. So I don't know if we will never arrive to a global network to protect risky migrations, but we cannot prevent migration as such. What we can do is to get more and more committed and less indifferent somehow as human beings, as people, part of of our systems. So I saw many people saying it's not my business, and I think it's not true. It's a business of everybody. Like safeguarding, it's for everybody. And it's not only to prevent and to protect, but it's to create safe places, safe processes, safe relationships, as you could also learn during your studies here. Thank you.
Okay, we take the second question, and then we come to you.
Thanks for two wonderful speech. One question for Angela. Last Saturday, I met the demonstration nearby Vatican. The name is migration and reconquisition. And the one of the main point I interviewed the young people. He said because the government did not prepare well to receive the immigrant, and so when you're talking about the pull and the push factors, and also when you're talking about the safeguarding to those minors, the vulnerables, it's like the pull fact. Add more pull fact. However, in the micro, the three levels, you mentioned that actually we respect the human dignity in the micro, and meso we emphasize the subsidiarity. But what kind of a policy would you like to influence the micro level, the political level? I think it's the people complain that the political level not prepared yet. And then the second question to Dr. Russell. It's very interesting, the conclusion. You mentioned that the woman voice are much more well received in the local, not in the global. So the network will be helped in your implication. But I think that, of course, somehow our voice might be, firstly to be heard by local community. So how do you, what kind of methodology when you do this research, and then you think, or how do you to encourage the more people through the local to global? Thank you.
This is another complex question that cannot be responded globally, but I think that, so what I can say in my answer is something related to this country or this continent. And I am aware that in other continents might be different, and it is different. So if I have to stay on the macro level, as you asked, what I would propose is, let's say, a new migration policy on the continental level that needs to be signed by all the members, the European Union members, that might propose a new way of welcoming minors and migrants, which is more, let's say, balanced. Because now the norms, the European norms, let's say, are somehow oriented to the first countries that the minors meet when the minors or the migrants meet when they arrive. And if they come from the Middle East or the African countries, they first of all meet Spain, Italy, Malta, Greece. So, which seems the most interested countries in the managing of the migration flow, but that it's not something that we can see in other countries in the northern part of Europe, for example. In the northern part of Europe can arrive migrants that have as the migratory mandate to arrive there because they have some relatives there, some friends there, they have the community there, for example, and they use these countries of the southern part of Europe as transit countries. For the minors is even more difficult because, as I said earlier, in this country there is this norm, and if the police takes you and discovers that you are a minor and that you are alone, they keep you here, even though you have as a mandate to go abroad, but they keep you here. Now, going down in the other levels, the main question is how do they keep you here? Because if the numbers are high and the welcoming system is full and cannot take a big number of migrants, the problem is that the protection measures, the prevention measures cannot work as they have to work because there are not resources, there are no spaces, there are not safe processes in the same country. So if I have to propose something on the macro, I would say that the European Union is in charge of it. If I have to say something on the macro in Italy, I have to say that the government is in charge of it.
Thanks so much for your question. I'm not surprised that women feel more heard locally than globally. We saw from the statistics that women make up more of the roles in relation to safeguarding, so they are doing a lot of the work on the ground. And I think if we think about levels as well in the church, the higher up in the church we go, the less influence women have, feel they have, etc. And so I wonder if one of the ways to be heard more globally is to share all of the successes and the resources and everything that they've been doing. And I know from some of the conversations I've had over the last couple of years in attending this conference that that's very much what a lot of people would like, and that's what we're hoping the community of practice will be, an opportunity for women to support each other and to support all the many men that are part of the community of practice as well. And then as we develop that voice together about safeguarding and how it can be done as a group, then maybe, you know, there will be people and groups higher up in the church that will start to listen more and to make women understand that they are being listened to and heard at a higher level. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So here I see two hands, first, second, and then third up there. She was first.
Thank you. I'm Sister Charity from the Franciscan Missionary Sisters of Assisi, Zambian, based in Assisi. I've worked with immigrants before in Sicily, and I'm very interested in your topic, Angela. I just want to ask, how can we bring a different picture? How can we portray a different picture, a different positivity at large to the globe to talk about immigration? Because I think there's so much apathy, because the picture that we always see about immigrants is the negative picture. But there's a lot that is happening. There are many success stories, and there's a lot that they contribute even to the countries where they go to. So maybe it would be good that media houses or even people who are involved with immigrants would try to portray a positive picture about immigrants, that they're not just abusers, so to say. And it's true, they also need a human face, human dignity that needs to be preserved need to be preserved, needs to be respected, because they do make a contribution to the countries where they go. Thank you.
That's a process, I have to say. If we start from ourselves, looking at the migrants in a positive way, humanizing even the process somehow. So, and again, putting at the center the value of the person, no matter if the color of the skin, no matter the culture, no matter the culture of origin, I mean, no matter so they are people, they are human beings, and they can bring a kind of richness everywhere. In this country, for example, some people don't know, or they don't want to know, that the migrant population contributes to the economic development of this country in many ways, in many forms. And also when we refer to minors, especially minors that come here as adolescents, so who are trained here and are trained not only at school but also for internships and to go to work in the companies and so forth. So they are in this system, in this country system, and they become, sorry to say, but let me say that, economic resources so that everybody can develop together with them. So if we start having a vision that it's different to think, so from the one we and them as two separated entities, but if we start looking ourselves together with the migrants as the same community, we also can nurture what Romano Guardini used to call comunanza, the macroanthropos, according to Plato. And we can also get all and each one responsible for the happiness of the whole community. Because it's a matter, again, so I believe that we need to recall the ethical element, the ethical issue that is behind, that is responsibility. We are all responsible to the person who is close to us. No, not you. So, so we no, you, yes. So you know. So we are all responsible, and to be responsible, we mean that we have to respond to the need of the other, because the need of the other is also our need on the level of the macroanthropos. And Aristotle used to say that if we are happy, the community is happy. But the happiness of the community is superior to the individual happiness. But the individual happiness belongs to the happiness of the community. So we need to respond to this happiness, to the need of this happiness. And so I believe that it's a process. So it's a process because we need to train the people, recalling this ethical element behind, and then trying to also facilitate the process so that even if there is a clash of cultures, this clash can be safe and pacific somehow. So it's not a clash, but it's an encounter among cultures. It's a dynamic. Yes, thank you. I don't know if I answered, but it's more a processual, let's say, way. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. I'm Hot Mauli Sidabalok. I come from safeguarding team of Jesuit province in Indonesia province. My question first to Angela, because I heard that you explained more about obstacle of the Italian community to receive children migrant. I'm curious to know, is there any positive value of the community to receive or to protect children, specifically in Italy? And my second question to Dr. Russo, is there any data to explain what actually the influence factor why women not being heard in your research? Thank you.
Yes, there is a positive value of the community. Why? When I suggested the model I presented, this model comes from the voices I heard from the civil society, from the Italian civil society representatives. The model came from a qualitative research. So I interviewed people who are on the ground, in the field, so working with minor migrants, especially minors who come here alone. And they are so committed to safeguarding them, even though they don't define this service as safeguarding or as subsidiarity-based cooperation for development, so it's a long name, I'm aware of that. But they are there, and they do it, and they put that into practice. The main obstacle, it's not the civil society as such, but perhaps the public opinion around and other kinds of systemic elements like laws which are not completely possible to be implemented, or the lack of support in terms of resources. So we have to say that some negative elements like public opinion, which is not so, let's say, welcoming, or even sometimes political positions which are not so welcoming, are balanced by the people working even silently, quietly on the ground. So there is. And I have to say that I found a very strong civil society working on them for safeguarding minors and even for giving them the opportunity to develop and to start a process of development that can arrive somewhere, positively speaking. Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much for your question. I'm hopeful that the responses to the question that came after the questions that I presented. So I presented the sort of, do you feel women are heard locally, yes or no? And then after that, they would be asked, why did you give that answer, essentially? So those answers, this is why I'm a quantitative researcher. As long as you know which buttons to push, you can push the buttons and the software gives you a bunch of numbers and you present them. Qualitative analysis, however, can take a lot longer. So especially when you've got 451 respondents, a lot of qualitative research is, 12 people or 20 people, but much longer transcripts. So we've thankfully, I know some of the answers to our questions are one-word answers. Other people just didn't answer them. So we'll see what happens. But I guess that's a little a carrot or bait to come next year to the conference again, because that's when we'll be able to, so yes, I get 2% of all, no I don't, that's a lie. So yes, no, you'll have to wait to get that. But again, if you sign up to the Safeguarding Alliance, the Global Safeguarding Alliance, we always would put any new publications and information. We host webinars and things like that. So all of the information will slowly come out over the next few months as we analyse it and publish it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have here a voice, there, and then there. So first, here the lady with the hat.
Sorry. I guess I am nearest to the mic. What I'm going to say is how do we bring this home in our context? In terms of language, this is for Angela somehow. I am thinking of system and I'm thinking of language. And I see that, for example, if I am here, I am considered an immigrant, okay? If Angela comes to my country, she's considered a missionary or a helper. So this kind of thing shapes public opinion and it creates this tension. So I want to say that we need to process, it's complicated, but in terms of language, this is important. What do we tell the people? How am I perceived and seen based on how I am called? Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Now the lady here with the hat, she's raising her hand already for a long time. Please show your hand.
Thank you. My question goes to Douglas. Yeah. Because your research is about women's voice in the Catholic Church, and we know that women's voice in the Catholic Church, although there are changes, as we know there are positions in the Vatican already given to the women, right? But I assume that it is still far away for the women representative and women participation and women leadership. So because if we talk about women's voice, we talk about these three things: participation, leadership, and representation. And there are also many layers. This is for your next research, I think. Many layers, for example, you already said about local and global, right? And also of course, northern and southern, don't forget. We are neighbors in Indonesia. And also about lay and religious. Yeah, this is also one thing that we need to see also. And I assume there are still a lot of discrimination. At least what I see in Indonesia. Yeah, and also still marginalization and subordination, women's subordination. So I think we need to see the change, to see the transformation. Like for example, in women's movement, we have the quota, women quota. Otherwise, we never achieve the women representation. So we need the women quota, and also we need to create the system that is friendly to women. It is not easy as a lay woman, at least to be equal with the religious. It's not easy. And also the culture. We know the clericalism is still there, and also hierarchicalism. So this is the things that I think we need to go into deep. Thank you.
Thank you, yes. Yeah, I think many of the points that you've made speak to that idea of why women feel more heard locally than globally. What's great about this study, there are many great things about the study, but one of them is that we will be able to separate out people in different regions or specific countries. So some countries we had as many as 70 or 80 respondents. So we'll be able to report on individual countries. Other countries we might have to group together with similar countries in the region. Likewise, we can separate responses according to women religious versus people working in Catholic settings versus lay people who are church attendees. So yeah, definitely keep your eyes out for the publications, but it's great that you've sort of made these points, because it really makes me think, as we move forward to writing this all up, these are the sorts of things that we need to write up about and make sure that we're not just saying, here's 450 women around the world and here's what they say, because they are different groups. They're different groups according to their culture, within their countries and regions, they're different in relation to the culture that they have as lay women or as workers of the church versus women religious. So thank you. You've got me having to write much more than, a basic report, and that's good because that's what I should be doing. Thank you.
Okay, we go here.
Yes. I would like to ask a question to Angela. First of all, my name is Jean-Marie. My background, I'm from Kinshasa, from Congo, DRC. But I've been living in Canada. I'm one of the Episcopal vicars in the Archdiocese of Montreal. First of all, I would like to recall the question of sister from Zambia. Myself, I'm one of the testimonies. When we talk about migration, for instance, the case of Canada is amazing. When you go to Canada, doors are open to everyone. In case there is a kind of abuse, you report and the person has to be punished. Even in the Archdiocese of Montreal, supposing you say something just verbally and report it to me or to any other leaders within the Archdiocese, you are punished. Even the priest, they send you away. There is an ombudsman to check, to verify everything, and to send you away from the diocese. It means it depends on countries. I'm really flabbergasted. The way I know Italy, I thought Italy was more advanced, But hearing from you, I realized that there is again conversion to do. There is so much to do. But my question should be in the sense of immigration. Now, just I leave. Only I contribute. I don't ask a question. No, because it's much more political. According to my own experience, what we are experiencing now in Europe started from the time the Libya was attacked. The time Gaddafi was killed, that was the time everything opened the door to Europe. And then we now, as defender of immigration, I think the first question or the first research we have to do, how to support countries, authority, governments, to deal well, to govern very well. Because of them, people are running away. You see? And if you see those countries, sorry, with all due respect to European presidents, they are behind all those kind of immigrations. They are thinking of themselves. They are families, but other people are consequences. Okay? This is the main question.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we have here a sister with a white veil.
Thank you. I'm Sister Agnieszka from Poland, and I have a question for Douglas. You said that knowing is not the same as confidence, and the women are not being heard. So I was wondering, because we were talking about how we understand harm, that it is somehow culture-based. So my question is, because you had a very funny picture on the presentation when the sister is teaching and preaching for priests and for men. So for me, it's a strange situation that I would do training only for priests or bishops, for example, and they would listen. So my question is, don't you think that we also have to understand that what we value is also culture-based? So do we value women religious as teachers for priests? Maybe in the United States, yes, but maybe in Poland, no. So this is my question.
I will let ChatGPT know that image was not realistic in all contexts. No, you make a great point that what's going to work in one country is not necessarily going to either happen or work in another country, and it's very much that we need to look at these different regional differences and hopefully identify what are the factors that helped a particular diocese or a particular country to have, as an example that you kind of said, is to have priests more than happy to go and sit and listen to a woman religious go, I have the knowledge about safeguarding, I have the experience, I am part of the group of people that make up the larger part of this workforce, and here's what I'm going to show you. And that's not, just like much of what Angela said about things aren't going to happen overnight. We need to look at what's going to happen. So I've already got people telling me what research is happening next, and people giving me ideas. So I will be putting up a QR code for funding, and if everyone contributes, then I will be more than happy to, do it. No, I joke. We have some work to do, and hopefully we can identify what some of those factors are. So rather than looking at risk factors, look at, I don't suppose they're called protective factors, but factors that help, make change. So we've got work to do, and let's hope that we can do it. If anyone knows how to get priests in the room listening to women, then please come and see me afterwards, and I will share it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
You're sitting right next to each other. The question was unnecessary.
Yeah.
No.
we are in development. Okay, slowly we are moving to a kind of closure.
May I add something just quickly?
Angela, okay.
So perhaps something that is related to the last answer, but also to the other comments. I believe that the key on the long term is formation. And so let the people know how to call the others, if migrant, if missionary. So let's give country-based, culturally sensitively, let's give words to the people. Don Milani used to say that you have to have words to have the power in the society. So let's give words to the people. Let's train people. Let's form people in the schools, in the family, in the communities. This is the key. This is the key element. Even on the level of news, social news, political news, even the things that perhaps the main powers don't want that we know. Let's give words to the people so that the people can defend themselves and can also explain, trying to explain the reality. So it is just to close.
Okay, we are coming to the last question. The lady here in the white shirt.
Hello, thank you. My name is Kate, and I'm with 2 lay representatives and 2 friars from Oxford, from the Centre for Applied Carmelite Spirituality. The first statement I would like to make is that in my experience, our friars listen, respect, and are forming great women and male leaders. And I would like to say I see many priests in this room who are great listeners, full stop. The second thing, I worked in one of Britain's leading prestigious universities for 5 years as an academic researcher. My field was leadership and management, but also academic research itself. So I'd like to make a statement, then I'd like to ask you a question. My statement is historically, most research has been undertaken by men. And we know that much of historical research until late 21st century is not very valid because of that, because they bring unconscious bias. That is the same with the colonial attitude, which I certainly saw in the recent English RLSS conference. I won't go into that, I wish there was time. My question is, I'm astonished that a man is leading research on women. Surely you must be bringing unconscious bias. Wonderful though your research is. Thank you.
Thank you. I love this. I'm looking at someone behind you thinking that they wanted to heckle me during my presentation or after it. You've raised a great point. I am the the face, not even the face, just the voice at the moment for this research. My colleague here, Sister Jacinta Onding, is one of the chief investigators on this project, but her specialty in analysis is the qualitative research. So she will no doubt be the person presenting next year at the conference. I've just dobbed her in now. Sister Joyce, who was asking a question earlier, again, part of the Global Safeguarding Alliance. So whilst I'm the one, you could say that drew the short straw and had to present the data, albeit it's probably the part of my job I like doing the most. It's definitely not a one-person project. It's a group project, and women have been involved in the development of the questions. Sister Jacinta wrote most of the questions, and we adapted them as a group. So you raise a good point. My apologies that I'm a man presenting research on women's views. Hopefully just a sign that we do want to collaborate and work with you. And I totally get your point. There are hundreds, thousands, plenty of men, priests and laymen that will listen to women. Simply the examples that were given that might be culturally specific or otherwise. So thank you.